Hello, welcome back to the Paris newsroom here at France 24. It's time now for our look at what's making the headlines in the international newspapers. Caterina Vitozzi joins us for that here in the studio. Hi there, Caterina.
Hello.
We're going to be starting off with one of our top stories from the news bulletins today, the trial of Gu Kailai making top billing in the Wall Street Journal's Asia edition.
Yeah, this is just the Asia edition of the Wall Street Journal, as you said. So this trial that's begun today, Gu Kailai, wife of a very former high-ranking Chinese politician. The journal's looking at the story of Gu's son. He lives in the States, and he has been speaking out ahead of the trial. Well, he hasn't really been speaking out. He's in fact sent a confidential testimony to the defence lawyers in that case. He doesn't disclose what's in that. He says he hopes his mother is going to have an opportunity to read it before the trial commences, as it already has. However, what is interesting is the Wall Street Journal does go into a bit of detail about how the Chinese justice system functions now and how it's evolved over the past couple of years. It points out that it was only in the late 70s that public trials became commonplace. It says that still now 98% of trials end in a guilty verdict. So it's quite a surprising figure, I thought.
That's a huge percentage.
Yeah, indeed. And critics say that shows that criminal trials are perhaps just a way for the party, the ruling Chinese Communist Party, to legitimise what they want to happen. Obviously, that's what critics say. The paper doesn't say that itself.
But it is widely believed that Gu Kailai will be going to jail following this trial.
Indeed, we're expecting a quick and guilty verdict, but we'll see in the coming days.
Exactly, have to see how that trial pans out there. So that's the Wall Street Journal Asia. What's the domestic Chinese press saying about this?
Well, you'd expect, this is making headlines across the world, but in the Chinese newspapers, not a word.
Nothing at all?
Nothing at all. I've looked in all the China Daily, Shanghai Daily, lots of news agency websites. Haven't heard a word. I'd be interested to see if perhaps any viewers can find anything. What the China Daily is leading on is the story of this huge Typhoon Haikui, photograph on the front page showing people taking shelter in these temporary shelters. 2 million people have been forced to seek refuge over the last 2 days. 3 people have died, but the good news is that the storm is abating somewhat now. This is an interesting pastime, but the China Daily does talk about a certain Shao Jun who calls himself a weather enthusiast.
Some people enjoying the typhoon.
He's a typhoon chaser. So
right.
This means what he does is he drives into the middle of the typhoon storm in a 2-ton truck. He says it's not just kind of an adrenaline rush. He actually is going on to Weibo, which is the Chinese Twitter, keeping people up to date with where the storm is, where they should be, taking shelter, where the storm is coming from. So it's not just an adrenaline pursuit for him.
Must be a bit of a thrill seeker all the same. We see that kind of thing in the United States, don't we, with the twister chasers?
Yeah, exactly. You see the hurricane chasers. But I just love the idea of him being in this huge 2-ton truck. Yeah. It's quite a nice visual image.
I wonder how much petrol it uses up as well. Let's move on to some Olympic news now in Britain's Independent. A chance for us Brits, you and I, to have a little bit of a gloat over our medal haul, but also a warning for the government about cutting sports funding.
Yeah, indeed. This is the front page of the Independent. Athletes, yes. Heroes, absolutely. Chris Hoy and Laura Trott, Olympic gold medal cyclists. Now, they're saying that if Great Britain wants to replicate the success that we've had in this year's Olympics in Rio de Janeiro, the funding that they've received to date has to stay as it is. The government say that they can't ensure that they're going to be able to maintain this level of funding. Chris Hoy says this will have a massive impact. One high jump coach made the interesting comparison when it came to what government funding would be spent on. What would you rather have, Chris Hoy or a submarine?
So, depends if I had to store it in my garage, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Chris Hoy could pedal resources to the
But
front.
talking about how much money goes into the Trident nuclear submarine program,
so
I
he's
guess.
saying, where do people want to see their money spent, and what is the most important expenditure?
Brits certainly enjoying the medal haul at the Olympics, that's for sure. Thanks very much, Caterina Vitozzi, with the International Press Review here on France 24.